Studying Edexcel IGCSE English language and desperate to get higher marks for Section B and really understand how reviews work. Write sophisticated reviews, get higher grades. Stay tuned. You're watching Schofield on Shakespeare. The mark scheme is looking for the right tone, perceptive and subtle communication, extensive strategic vocabulary and accuracy. But you also need to show the examiner that you understand how reviews work. And so here are some reviews for you to get your teeth into. Read them through whilst consistently thinking, what does an outstanding review look like? What kind of language is used and how are they structured? Go on, press pause now. What follows now isn't strictly a review, but it does contain many of the features of review writing. It's a longer piece published in The Athletic, which is a publication known for longer, more in-depth sports articles. I've included it because the writing is quite interesting and sophisticated. The article certainly gives its opinion on Sellers Park, the football ground of our beloved Eagles, but goes into far more depth and includes far more background information than your typical standard review would. So carry on reading, folks. Time now to unpick and reflect on the makeup of a review. A rating is typically used in films, but I suspect it could also work in other contexts, e.g. book reviews, concert reviews, etc. Note the introductory paragraph which sums up the plot of the film. The language of reviews should be lively, and this certainly comes across in the first main paragraph with the choice of quotation, F the Queen. Notice here that the opinion is not given explicitly at the beginning. All we know is that the film begins in irreverent form, although the adjectives cosy, feel good do give clues as to the writer's feelings about it. This makes the review more interesting and engaging to read. We have to read on to establish exactly what the writer's perspective is. When reviewing a film, play or book, you clearly need to include plenty of details about what happens. The readers will not only be interested in your opinions, but may also like to make their own minds up based on key content that you provide. Within film reviews, note the convention of using brackets to identify the actor playing a specified character. This slide is helpful in showing how you might give your opinion in different ways. Note also that it isn't completely positive. There are occasional cliches which are forgiven. Note the use of the interesting and lesser used adjective uniformly to reference the excellence of the cast. Note the repetition of very within very, very funny. Meanwhile, with the review of Mary Poppins, we have references to the history of the stage production. It was previously seen in Southampton 9 years ago. Also note how much detail is packed into each sentence. From a GCSE perspective, the single sentence within the final paragraph on screen is too long, a whopping 60 words. However, the specific details provided are so important to help the reader picture the event being reviewed. We know that Mary Poppins' umbrella is held aloft within a starry night sky, whilst Mr. Banks's childhood nanny is called Miss Andrew and has a giant magical bird cage. If you love what you are reviewing, make this abundantly clear with your language. Here we have utterly brilliant, so jaw-dropping and simply delightful. Inject some light-hearted humour into your reviews. This is seen here in the reference to the incredible choreography, meaning that you half expect your neighbour to pipe up with "Close your mouth please, we are not a codfish," a quote from the musical itself. Ensure your ending is memorable. Fun puns can work particularly well. So how can we sum up the features of reviews? And is there anything else you think which should be added? Here's an exam-style question. A magazine is inviting readers to send in a review of a memorable event which they have seen or experienced. Write the review that you would submit to the magazine. Have a go at doing this yourself now. Go on, get on with it, press pause. Here's my model review. Review of Festa da Alegria. This festival, held every August within the footfalls of São Roque, Funchal, is a must experience for tourists and locals alike. The Festa da Alegria is the perfect antidote for those jaded by over-commercialisation and jostling crowds. Like other Portuguese festivals, it takes place outdoors. However, the location is unusual in that it is neither by the sea nor within a built-up area. A small stage and a series of wooden huts are temporarily erected each year within the beautiful Jardim das Ervas Aromáticas, a herbs and medicinal plants garden. Temporary spotlights are dotted around the garden, creating a magical, intimate feel as dusk falls. Entrance is free. Fussy eaters and vegetarians are likely to find the range of food offered at the festival frustratingly limited. However, the sandwich carne de vinho e alhos, marinated wine-drenched pork, was generously sized, with succulent tender meat within a fresh white bap. At €4.50, it was reasonably priced, as was the traditional Madeiran bread bolo do caco, available either with garlic butter or chorizo and cheese. I found the garlic butter version a little too oily, but who's complaining at that price? In terms of drinks, revellers could enjoy the local Corral beer, €1 for 20 cl, or the traditional alcoholic drink Poncha, made with rum, sugarcane and honey. I sampled a lemon pescador variety, €2.50, wonderfully Moorish, bitter and deceptively strong. There were 3 other varieties available, with the passion fruit Poncha particularly recommended, albeit slightly more expensive at €3. There were 3 live music acts during the evening, with local age heartthrob Tony Jardine beginning proceedings with a series of well-known tunes from the 1980s and 1990s, resulting in the majority of women aged 60 and above heading to the grassy dance floor. His performance of Tony Carreira's Depois de Ti was particularly memorable, with some well-received pelvic thrusts during the chorus, "Without you, love doesn't exist." However, the use of a backing track rather than a live band made the performance seem, at times, like glorified karaoke. In contrast, younger, hipper Vitor Souza did have a full band, and this resulted in a more dynamic performance and sound. The crowd joined in gustily to well-known tunes such as The Little Goats and I Have Two Lovers, with the guitarist, local musician Andre Gouveia excelling during extended improvised solos. A solitary drawback of this festival is that it's very difficult to get to by public transport. Local buses only take you as far as the village of Alegria, and it is a 45-minute walk up an extremely steep incline to get to the Jardim das Ervas Aromáticas. However, given that entry to the festival is free, a taxi ride is a feasible option, costing either €5 from the village or 15 from the centre of Funchal. At the end of the festival, a security guard called out to me in English as I left the gardens, "Thank you for coming. Did you have a good time?" My answer was emphatically in the affirmative, and not just because of the ponchers. And so the next time you're in mainland Portugal or Madeira over the summer, look out for posters at bus stops and on street corners, giving details of dates and artists for forthcoming festas. Not only will you have the time of your life, but you will also, for one night only, live and party like a local. Before we dissect this model response, a delightful interlude. Can you spot the glaring spelling errors within these 3 sentences on the screen? Press pause to get thinking. OMG, it's temporarily, not temporarily. Silly me. It's fussy with double S, not fuzzy. We're not bothered about facial hair here. What a wally I am. Revellers has double L in the middle. Of course it does. So why does this get full marks within this section of the exam? Let's unpick. Well, note the background to the event being reviewed within a kind of introduction. This gives basic information about the event, i.e. when it is held and where. Also note the initial, more sophisticated opinion provided within the first sentence of the first main paragraph. The Festa da Alegria is the perfect antidote for those jaded by over-commercialization and jostling crowds. Unlike guides and leaflets, reviews do lend themselves more naturally to more sophisticated expression, flair, and vocabulary. I think it's important that reviews are not all positive or all negative. Hence, although I'm reasonably complimentary about the sandwich and very complimentary about the alcoholic drink, I'm less keen on the bread doused with garlic butter. Be as specific as possible when giving your opinion and include details important to the reader. For instance, the cost of a product will make a difference to how it is perceived. Aim to engage and entertain the reader. I aim to do this here with phrases such as local aged heartthrob and the understated, humorous, well-received pelvic thrusts. Make sure you show the reader that you are an expert on the event or film or book that you are reviewing. I do this here by not only mentioning the full names of 2 artists, but also a guitarist and the names of 3 songs sung during the evening. If reviewing an event, you need to reference practical logistical details, i.e. what it's like to get there. It's all very well having a magical concert. However, if you know you're guaranteed to be stuck in a traffic jam for 2 hours, both before and after, that is relevant information. Aim to sign off your review in a memorable, possibly cheesy way. And I do this here by directly addressing the audience and suggesting that for one night only, they will be able to live and party like a local. One final point about reviews. Remember that it's absolutely fine to make up details. And I do this within this review, provided that it sounds realistic and sensible.
O autocarro do amor logo respondeu o revisor. Só entravam nele passageiras